Oh, let's try it again. But now we're at 25, 2, 25, 25, 11:35 a.m. Okay, so good. We have that. People are not coming in, but they will. I just need to make sure. All right. So, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Okay. So, what are we going to do? We are going to be talking about the abacus, and we are going to be, hi, Alexa, how are you doing? Oh, I just turned on my Alexa. Okay. So, we're going to start counting, and how are we going to do? We're going to do 1, 2, right? And we'll do, let me turn on some lights. I forgot to turn on some lights because it looks better. All right. So, good morning, good morning, good morning. I am well. I'm well. I was a little tired and I needed to regrip a little bit. I was actually doing some recording for my for the school. We were doing multiplication. But now I'm taking a little break and I need to go live because I like to talk to people. All right. So, we're going to count on the abacus. This is an abacus. This abacus helps us learn how to count on the abacus. We're doing math. That's what we're doing. We're doing math. And when we count, we need to know that all the lower beads has a value of 1. So what we do is do 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, how do I know that these are counted? Well, we have this horizontal bar, and this horizontal bar is what tells us that this is being counted. Now, why does it matter? Well, if you notice, these ones are not used, right? So that's why this is not being counted. So these are considered 0. So we have 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. This is 4. And then if you look, we can actually subitize. Well, what does subitizing mean? Well, subitizing mean that we can look into, welcome everybody, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning for me still. It's only 8:30. It's only 11:30 for me. So what is subitizing? Subitizing is when you look at a number and you know what number it is without counting it, right? We don't need it to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, abacus is the same way. We just look at it, go 1, instead of saying 1, 2, 3, 4, we know that all of this is 4. Right? So if I showed, like, we know the symbol. We know the symbol. And that's what this is, right? We know 4. So we have 4. Now notice we only have 4 beads right here. These 4 beads, we don't know where 5 is. Well, we do have a 5. We do have a 5 on the abacus. And the 5 on the abacus is always going to be the bead on the top. It will always be in the bead on the top. That is what 5 is. The top bead will always have a value of 5, no matter what. So this is 5. Whoa, maybe I should do that. This is 5, this is 5, this is 5, this is 5, and this is 5. Thank you so much for the hearts. Thank you so much for the hearts. I really appreciate it. All right, let me see if I can move this a little bit so it's easier for me to see. Okay. Welcome, 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 everybody. Welcome. So we're back to here, and hello, Wicked, and Recovering Out Loud, and I don't know those symbols. I'm so sorry. Okay, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening. Okay, so we have this, which is the value of 5. Anybody have any questions, let me know. We have 6. So how do I know what 6 is? Well, we have the value of 5, and then we have 6. Thank you again. Hi. Hi, K3. Hi, K3. Is it Ken? I'm hoping it's Ken. Ken? So we have 6. We have 5 and then 6. So when we add it together, we have 5 plus 1 is equal to 6. So this number right here is 6. How do I know? Because we have this bead that's touching this beam. This beam tells us that any of the beads that are being counted. So if you notice, in regular school, we don't teach the children to start from 0. But in Abacus, we actually have to start from 0 because we want to be able to have a clean abacus. Hi in CMS. I got some multiplication questions for us. I'm going to talk about how to read the abacus first, and then we will go into diving into some multiplication. So we have 6. So after we do 6, this is 7. I need to figure out a better way to do this. We have 7. So what is 7? We have 5, 6, 7. This is 7. How do I know? Because these beads are touching this beam right here. So because the beads are touching the beam, we know that we have the 5, because this has the value of 5, and then we have 2, because there's 2 beads touching the beam. These ones all have a value of 1. So when we do 8, just like how we write, just like what 8 is, we have the 1 bead on top and the 3 beads on the bottom. So we have 5, 6, 7, 8. Hi everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. Talking about the abacus, and what we're doing right now is we're learning how to read the abacus. Once we all learn how to read the abacus, we can go further into adding, subtracting, multiplication, and division. You could also do decimals on the abacus, which is kind of cool. But for what we're doing right now is we just need to understand how to read the abacus. So right now I have 8, right? 5, 6, 7, 8. All the top bead has the value of 5. And then this is 1, 2, and 3. So 5 plus 3 is 8. And how do I know? Because it's all touching this beam. Once we touch this beam, we know that it's being counted. So the next number we have is 9. So 9 is this. This will always be 9. All the beads touching the column will always be 9, no matter what. So if this is 9, this is 9, this is 9, this is 9, this is 9. Now, if you look, we actually have place values. Just like we write on the abacus, just like we write, and I'm going to do some annotation. I need to, where's my, there we go. So, just as we write on the, just as we write 10, right? We have our tens place, right? Tens, and then this is our ones. So, just like we write the tens and the ones, maybe that's a little bit too hard. Thank you so much for the hearts. Thank you so much for the hearts. Okay, so just like we write, we have our tens, and then we have our ones, which is 0. So when we count, this would be 11 because it's tens and the ones. And then 11, 12, 13, 14. We have 14 and then 15. And then again, we can do 25, right? Because we have the 2 and the 5. We could do 35 because this is still the tens. So no matter what we're doing, we have the 5, then this is 5, but if you remember that this is going to be a 0. Hi, welcome everybody, welcome. Thank you so much for the hearts. Come on in. What we're doing is we're learning how to read the abacus because before we can start doing adding, subtraction on this, we need to know how to read the abacus. The words almost flew by me. So this is 5, right? No, this is 50. So if it's 50, this is 50. So if this is 50, this will be, what number would that be? What number would this be? If this is 5, right? This is 5, but instead of, yes, thank you so much. Gato and Oni. I hope I said that right. So yes, exactly, because we have the place values. So we have the 5s, the 10s, the 100s, and then the thousands. So if you notice, I have dots on my abacus. My dots on the abacus actually lets me know, I need to make it not so bright. The dots on the abacus lets me know what my place value is. So I like to use this one. This would be my ones place. Why? Because then I have and I have like all these place values to talk about. Oh, Oni. Okay, good. So I have like all these numbers that I can use for my numbers, right? So we have our ones, our tens, our hundreds, thousands, and 10,000, right? And there's this other dot here. You could use this dot or you could just leave it, right? But now you notice we can actually utilize this dot as a place value indicator, right? So when we talk about it, just like how we use commas, so if I have a number 5, 4, 3, 2, right? I could do 5, 4, 3, and then 2. Because this is my ones, this is my hundreds, sorry, this is my ones, this is my tens, this is my hundreds, this is my thousands. So notice it matches up. So this comma helps me with this dot. Does that make sense? Do you sell this small abacus? I do sell the small abacus. I will try to put it on, I sell it on my website right now. I do sell it on my website right now, but I haven't figured out how to put it on a TikTok shop. But yes, I will try to figure out how to put it on my TikTok shop. But I do sell this, and it's on my website. So does this mean the small abacus only does 900? Okay, so let's do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, if I start here, it would be 99999 decimal 99. So it would be 99,999 with our decimals 9.9. You could do a bigger decimal, which was this one, which is 13 columns, right? So with this one is only 7 columns, but I wouldn't start from here because it doesn't make sense because the dot is over here. So the dot, this dot helps me know that these would be the place values. So this would be like as if we were talking about money, and then these would be the cents. But if you did here, right, if I did this abacus, which is 13, you would be more, right? Because I could start from this one over here, because notice there's a dot at the very end. So if I did 9 here, it would be ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000, 100,000, 10,000, 100,000, 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, 1 billion, 10 billion, 100 billion, 1 trillion. So you could use, yeah, it's the dots. And it's nice because, well, I mean, it's different because the camera doesn't pick up the dots and it's a little bit hard to see. But, and then sometimes the lighting is a little off and sometimes it gets blurry. So when you see these dots, it's smaller, but when you see these dots don't go all the way to the end. But this one does. This dot is the 13 and it goes all the way to the end. So you could use this one. This would be a trillion. Then there's another one, which is a lot bigger, and this is 23 columns. So with the 23 columns, you can do that. Or it could be the smallest, right? So right here, depending on, if I start here, I would have 1.777898, right? So I would do 1.7779 and then 8. So it'd be tenths, hundreds, thousandths, millionths, and then 10 millionths. Yeah, that's what it would be. But that's if I started here, right? So then we have our decimals over here. This would be the same. If I chose to have my decimal here, my ones here, then I had all of this to do my decimals. It just depends, right? It depends on where you want your home to be. So, anybody else have questions? We're going to continue on. We have 10 people in. Okay, so this is about place values, and now we understand how to read it, right? So let's do a little testing. Okay, whoa, oh, come on. I don't know what's going on. So I want to go to this number. So if I took out this number, what number would this be? What number is that? I'm going to move this away. I'm going to play with the colorful dots, the colorful abacus, because I like the colors. So what number would this be if we were tracking? I do follow this one finance guy. He kept saying, "Let's tracking. Put in the comments that you're tracking. Put in the number 1 when you're tracking. Track." And I was like, "Oh, that's a lot of tracking." Okay, so what would this number be? We have our ones, our tens, our thousands. No, sorry, our ones, our tens, our hundreds, and our thousands. So Oni, let's see. This would be a 4. This is 8, a 7, and a 2. Yes, exactly right. And so, hi, thank you for following me. Yes, so that's what it'd be because I labeled this as a, yes, Gato. I labeled this as the ones. Now, if I reversed it and I had this one as my ones, what would it be now? Right? Just like when we follow the decimals, it does all depend on what we're labeling. That's why names, matter. So if I had this as the ones, what would the number be now? Oh, Gato, it's actually 8 because it's 5, 6, 7, 8. And your 7 was reversed. So this is 7. 5, 6, 7. Yes, Oni. But Gato, your numbers were reversed. Sorry, I was looking at it quickly. So yeah, it would be 4, 8, 7, and then 2. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, no. So that was the thing. And then sometimes, I'm not sure, it gets a little confusing because of all the numbers, but that's okay because we're learning how to read. And when we learn how to read, it takes me time to like sit down and be like, okay, I want to make sure that this is the number. But yeah, so this is how we talk. This is how we read the number. When we read the number, we can go into the next one. So now, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about addition. So let's talk about some addition, and then we can talk about some subtraction. So the first thing we're going to do is, in what I have, this book. This is for preschoolers, and the reason why I did the preschoolers is because I noticed that we don't have enough information, enough activities for the preschoolers to learn abacus. So this one was about the first lesson. We talked about 0 to 4, and we talk about like what does it mean representation. We have the symbol, which are these. If you think about it, these are symbols just like the letters A, B, and C, D. But with the letters, you actually have to combine it to make a word. And it's interesting because you see the numbers, but it's a little bit more loaded because when you say 2, we know it's 2 of something. We just don't know 2 of what, right? So if you think about it, these are a lot of symbols. And I feel like that the reason why some of the kids are having problems, with number sense is because they don't see how the numbers are being moved. So what does that mean? Well, we don't utilize the manipulatives as much as an abacus. So on the abacus, we actually do multiplication and division on the abacus. And it's nice because it grows with the child. It grows with us. So we can actually utilize it. Whereas the die, right, you only go up to 6. The die, you only go up to 6, right? And then after that, we got to have another die to have 7. And then you're going to have all these die, and then there's no place values. So if we do 4, okay, we do 4, and then we do 6, right? And then that's it. So the die is okay as a manipulative. It's nice to have because it helps you subbatize, but the abacus also helps subbatize, right? We know that this is 6. So on the abacus, we can say 7, but then you're going to need another die to make 7. The other manipulatives that are being used in school, there's many manipulatives. Like, I'm starting to see a lot. But there's not a lot of abacus use, which is interesting. Because I would assume that if you're really going to go back, but it's good to have these manipulatives. Why? Because then you could see the quantity. Because you don't have the quantity here. This is not a quantity. So that's one bad thing about the abacus is up here is not the quantity, but it can go further, right? So when the children start going into understanding what the quantities are, right? This is 5 and then this is 5. So this is 10, right? So then they know, okay, these are 10s. So then I can go in and I could do a regrouping. I don't teach with these bricks. I'm just showing you, this is for demonstration to see, the pros and cons about the abacus and the manipulatives. So with the manipulative, it's easy to see, right, that you can do 10. So this is 10 and 10, right? And you can break it up and so forth, which is great. And then when the kids understand what these mean, like the 10 and the 5 and so forth, then, maybe we could transition them to an abacus. Because when we start understanding that we do 5, let's do 5, right? And we're doing our adding. So we have our 1, and then we have our 1. We have our 2, right? 2, and then plus 2 is 4. Notice it's similar, right? Which is great. But then we don't have 5. This will always be 5. So the quantity here sometimes eludes us, but if we can kind of remember that this is 5, then it makes a lot of sense. Now, we first need to do is we need to understand how to do addition simply. And in this book, after we do counting forward and counting backwards and the relationship of the numbers, I go into doing adding and subtraction on the abacus. So here in lessons like, I think 9? Yeah. So in lessons 9 through 12, there's 12 lessons in this book. So in this book, there's 12 lessons. What I do is I actually break up the number. Now, the reason why I break it up saying that this is 1, why do I do that? Because I want to show the process and not the result. So I'm not sure if anybody has been following me, depending on how long you've been following me. There's this one video I keep bringing up because it was just amazing, like the difference between understanding addition and subtraction. So one of the questions was how to do 3 plus 5. So 3 plus 5, and the answer is 8. And they were very excited that this was the number 8. So in this video, they were very focused on the 8. So they were very focused on the result. Okay, which is fine, but actually Abacus doesn't focus on the result. So if I'm going to use this as my ones, I'm going to do 3 and then plus 5. If you notice, I have enough beads to add the 3 and I have enough beads to add the 5. So that's fine. So we always talk about, in Abacus, we always talk about, do we have enough beads, right? Do we have enough beads? Is there enough beads for 3? Is there enough beads for 5? Yes. So we're going to add it. So then the next question was 7 plus 1. So now on the abacus, we have 7. My question is do we have enough beads for plus 1? Yeah, we have enough beads for plus 1, right? We add the 1. But in the video, they were like, "Woo, 8, yay! This and this is equal to 8, and this is equal to 8. Yay!" But in abacus, it actually doesn't matter, right? Because what we're looking at is there enough beads to add the 1? There is. Now, the next question they had was 4 plus 4. And they're like, we know that this is 8 because we've all memorized what 4 plus 4 is. Now, we know what 4 plus 4 is because we've memorized what are doubles. The problem with that is the abacus actually doesn't memorize doubles, because we don't do 4 plus 4 and then if we need to take away 1, or 4 plus 4 minus 1 or plus 1. We don't, because memorizing the doubles doesn't make any sense. In abacus, we actually focus in on the process. So what does that mean? Well, if you notice, we have 4, right? This is the first one. We have the 4. Now in the second one, oh, you need to go. Bye, NCMS. I'll see you next time. Oh, have a good night. It's very late for you. So if you notice, there's a 4. And then on the abacus, we don't have enough beads for 4. So what do? Well, this is where we start talking about the 5 frame. In school, we're teaching the children how to use the 5 frame. What is the 5 frame? Well, the 5 frame is understanding the pairs that make a 5. So this is a 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then if I move them, right, I have 4 and then 5. I have 4 plus 1. So one of the things that they're teaching in school is how do you make a 5? 4 plus 1 is equal to 5, and 1 plus 4 is equal to 5. And that is as far as it goes. But in abacus, we actually take it one step further. In abacus, what we do is we're going to isolate this variable and we're going to move this 1 to the other side. So when we do that, we're going to rewrite the question. We're going to rewrite the equation. We're going to rewrite the equation because we've isolated the variable. So we do a 4 is equal to plus the 5 minus the 1. I say plus the 4 because I want to remind ourselves what the operator is doing. We are adding, right? When we want to add the 4, we want to add the 5 and take away the 1. So we're back to here. I want to add the 4, so I need to substitute the equation. I'm going to substitute this equation into here. So on my abacus, I'm going to plus the 5 and I take away the 1. And so my answer is 8. And now we can do the happy dance, right? We can do the happy dance because now we understand that this is what we're doing. So this is the reason why I break it up into specific numbers of the process. We don't talk about the result because every result would be different, right? Like we all know, the way you do it is going to be different than the way I do it, right? So the idea is, what would be the process? What is the building blocks? What is the foundation? So here in this one is simple. The reason why it's simple is because if I'm going to use this side, this one is my ones, I'm going to add my 7. I want to know, what does 1 look like? And I'm only adding the 1 bead. So that's what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to solidify that when we add the 1, it's 1 bead. So here's another scenario. We have 1 and then plus 1. We don't memorize our doubles. What we do is we memorize how do we move this 1 bead, right? And then there's another one. We have 6. So if we do 6 and then plus the 1, we add the 1, just like that. Make sense? So when we do the adding and subtracting, we want to focus in on the second add-in, or the number that's being added is what we're going to focus on. Now, I did only the 2 add-ins here because they're preschool, and then we go to +4, and then after we do the +4, we show how to do a minus. Why? Because whatever if you know how to add, you will know how to subtract, no matter what. So what I've been told, and some parent was telling me that in kindergarten they don't talk about subtraction until the second half. Excuse me. Until the second half of kindergarten. Excuse me. Hold on. Yes. Sorry. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. Okay. Yes, actually, in this abacus, the blue. Sorry, allergies. It's starting to pick up. Yes, the blue bead is the blue bead is 5. However, because it's colorful, we call it the blue bead. But when we have it here, the top bead is what is considered. The top bead will always be 5. So when we, oh, okay, no, that's great. I'm happy to be able to share, and that you're excited too. Okay, so when we talk about it, it's the reason why I have it colorful is because it's easy for the young kids to understand how to move them, right? But depending on how old the kids are, or even adults, and if you want to, you can have the colorful one. I like the colorful one because I've been I've been using the abacus for more than 20 years, and we've always had the one colored one. So having it colorful is kind of nice, but it's usually just the top bead. We in the abacus world we talk about the top bead. Now, if you notice, they work exactly the same. So when we count it, they work exactly the same. This one has a dot, and then this one has a dot. The dot tells me where our place value is. So this is our ones, and then this is our ones, right? I chose to be in the middle for this one. You can choose any dot you'd like. You can do off the dot, but then you're a little bit off kiltered. Why? Because you're gonna have to remember that this is the ones. So does that make sense? So it's just labeled to help you. The dots are to help you, to help you label things, to help index, just like how we do commas, right? When we do commas, like this, the dot will signify, each dot will signify a I forget what it's called. It's like a major place value or whatever. So if I had my ones here, I have my 5 here because I know this is my thousands. So my thousands and then million, right? So every section is a major place value. That would be the so if we did, right, a million. So what am I trying to say? So the dots, this dot I'm going to choose in the middle. This will be our ones place. So we have 1, 2, 3, right? 1, 2, 3. The reason why I'm counting it is because it's touching the horizontal bar. Okay. So as it touches the horizontal bar, we have our 4. as we have our 4, we don't have any more beads at the bottom. That is why we use the top bead. The top bead will always be 5 no matter what. So this is 5, this is 5, that's 5, and this is 5. Now how do I know? Because it's touching the horizontal bar. This horizontal bar in the abacus world is called the beam. I don't know. But they call it the horizontal, they call it the beam. And so when we touch, when this bead is touching and this bead is touching, now we have 6. How do I know? Remember that the top bead has a value of 5, and then the bottom bead, bottom because it's underneath the horizontal bar, the bottom bead has a value of 1. So we have 6, 5, 6, we have 7, and then we have 8, and then we have 9. So notice, hi Micah, and then we notice we have our place value, right? So if this is 1s, this will be our 10s. So we have 10. And then we have 11, and it goes back again. So knowing how to do this, it's easy for the children to see that it's regular, that there's a pattern. I'm going to go back to my colorful one. So we do our 1, right? We do 10, and so we can do 20. We have 20, we have 22, and then we have 23, 24, and then 25. And then we have 26, 27, 28, 29. And it's the same thing for 9, and then 9 here. And then 9 here. But again, we always talk about the place value. So we have 900. And then we change this. It would be 9,000. Notice I have my dot here. If that made sense. Yeah. So going back to here with the adding and subtracting. When we add, we have to show we have to subtract. So when we subtract, we are only taking away 1. So that was the reason why, the way I broke it up. Because I want to talk about the actual the add-in that's being added or the subtracted that's being subtracted. So there's like these terminologies that are in school, that are in math that we don't actually use in abacus, because we don't talk about this as a subtract head. I don't think we do. I haven't seen it. But I'm trying to relate abacus to the mainstream math, and so when we're looking at this is the first subtract head. I don't even know if I'm saying it right. So that's 2, right? And then what we're doing, because this unit, this lesson is always about taking away the 1. So all we got to do is take away the 1 bead. So, and if you notice, the children will remember that what we're doing is we're taking it away. When we take away, we're removing it away from the horizontal bar. Oh, that's kind of dark. Oh my gosh. It's always funny with these lighting. Anyways. So the idea was to understand that when you take away the bead, we're taking it away, like subtraction. So it's easy for the kids to see that that's what they're doing, if that made sense. Because I heard that, it's hard for the kids to understand how to do subtraction. So if I did 4 and I subtract 1, all I got to do is that. All I got to do is just take it away. And so after we teach the children how to add, anything, all the 1 plus the 4, 1 from 1 to 4 where we add, we also subtract. So I added a little bit of activities to kind of make it engaging and not so boring. And then we do the 3, and then we do the -4, and then we do the +5. So again, the +5 would be the bead on top. We add the 5, and we added it we have it touch the horizontal bar. So in this question, we have 1, and then plus the 5. So then our answer is 6. But the reason why is because there's no formulas involved. There's no equations involved. What does that mean? Well, there's enough beads to add the 5. So if I did 2 plus 5, all I got to do is just bring down this 5. That's all I'm doing. So we start off with understanding how to move the beads and, how to do an 8, right? So we have 0. Let me clear my abacus. We have 0. We have 0 and then plus 8. There's only so many questions you could do with plus 8, right? So then you could do 1 and then plus 8. Oh, so that's where this comes in. And it was trying to, and I did it because I was like, okay, I know there's a pattern, but I don't know what kind of pattern it is. Usually in school, they just give you like a table like this and just, they highlight the column like this. But in Abacus, we actually break it up into certain ways. So this right here is what our adding of the 5, which is understanding how to make a 5, right? And then the yellow, oh, so then here, the blue or the green, that is simple. So this is what we're teaching the children in the beginning part, which is the preschool. And in any of the beginning abacus, it would usually talk about, you know, the first parts, which was simple. So what does that mean? Well, if you notice, if I added 2 and then I add 6, is there enough beads to add 6? Yes. All I got to do is just add these 2 beads. That's it. And then as we go through, the kids will see the pattern. Notice that it's this is considered 6, whether it goes -6 or plus the 6. These will be it. It could be like this, plus the 6 or minus the 6, as long as it's 1 bead on top and 1 bead on the bottom, right? They will see that. So that's why you go through the motions of going through the motions of adding and subtracting on the abacus. I mean, you could do it. I mean, we do it with manipulatives like this, right? When we do like plus the 6. But we don't talk about regrouping because it gets kind of hairy around here. So the 6 is the most, not difficult, but it's just, there's more to it than just add the 6. Oh, that was another thing. So another parent was like, my kid already knows how to add. I just want them to like learn how to add and subtract. Can they do? And then one of the question was like, if they can do 8 plus 5, can they do 5 plus 8? And yes, but there's actually more to it. Now, what does that mean? Well, again, in abacus, we focus in on the second add-in. The second add-in is what makes it. It's the one number that makes. It's the one number that we try to understand. Like, what do we do with this one number? So we don't focus. Like, we know that this is 13. This is the answer. They're both the same, but not. But they're not the same. How do I know? On the abacus, if I do 8, and then I want to add the 5. So if I add the 5, how do I make a 10 with a 5? The question would be 5 plus 5 is equal to 10, right? 5 plus 5 is equal to 10. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use algebraic terms, which is isolate the variable. I'm going to isolate this variable, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it over here. I have to balance the equation, right? When I balance the equation, I'm going to rewrite the equation to be 5 is equal to plus the 10 minus the 5. So we still are doing the concept of understanding how to make a 10. Why? Because we want to do this. We want to carry over. We want to carry over, and we want to take away the 5. Because we want to plus the 10 minus the 5. We don't say in abacus world carry over. We don't even say regrouping, which is funny. But there's all these terminologies that I was trying to find that we use in mainstream math. And when the mainstream math, we talk about regrouping and carrying over and so forth. But in abacus world, we say plus the 10 minus the 5. And that's it. That's the very fundamental of everything. But now, let's do this question, right? The question is 5 plus 8. This is a little bit more, now we're going into a two-step equation. How do I know? Well, because when I add the 8, there's not enough. Remember how to make a 10? 8 plus 2 is equal to 10. That's how you make a 10. So when we isolate this variable, we're going to move, apparently I'm in Christmas because I'm using Christmas colors. We're going to move this and we're going to move it to the other side. So we're going to isolate this variable, right? I'm going to rewrite it so it'll be 8 is equal to plus the 10 minus the 2, right? Because we want to move this 2 to the other side of the equation. Now we have isolated this variable and I want to add 8 right here, but I don't have enough. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to plus the 10. I'm going to regroup. I'm going to carry over. I'm going to carry over a 10. I'm going to carry over a 10, and I need to take away 2. But now, we don't have any beads to take away the 2. This is why it's a two-step equation. So now, there's another equation, and it goes back to understanding how to make a 5. That's the fundamental difference. We understand the elements, we understand our ingredients, and then we can manipulate it any which way. So now, how to make a 5? I'm going to use a different color. How do we make a 5? To make a 5 with a 2, we know we have a 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. But this is adding. We want to subtract. So in order to do that, we do -2 minus 3 is equal to -5. Are we dealing with negatives? Not really. We're dealing with operation, if that makes sense. So what we want to do now is we want to isolate this 2. We move the 3 to this side and it turns into a +3. Did that make sense? I hope that's okay. I know there's a lot that I'm just throwing at you. I'm trying to use terminologies that are being used in mainstream math as well. Because we don't do this in Abacus. Like this, we don't do it. What we do in Abacus is we memorize -2 is equal to -5 plus the 3. That's all we do. I just teach the kids that. They just have, that's what they have to memorize. But as I talk to adults, sometimes it's on sometimes because I'm talking to adults, I want you to understand what we're trying to do. So again, when we use the operators as a gentle reminder of what we're doing on the abacus. So what we're doing is we're taking away. So when we want to take away 2, I want to take away the 5, but I need to add the 3. I want to take away the 5 and I add the 3. Oh my gosh, come on. So did that make sense? So that's why this question and this question are very different. And I wouldn't put it together. I would always separate it. Because it's not the result that we're worried about. It's the add-ins. It's the process when we do abacus. It's always about the process. It's great to have the correct answer, but it's not that's not the focus of when we do math on abacus. So again, like this. The parent was talking about here, 8 plus 5, but if I move it over to here, 5 plus 8, see how it's over here? This is now my two-step equation. This right here is my two-step equation. And there's always, that's what it is. There's a two-step equation. And then there's a two-step equation for subtraction as well. And I don't know if I can find it. Oh, I think it's right here. So, yeah. So we have our addition, right? We have our friends. We have our make the 5. How to make a 5. How to make a 10. That's what this is. And then we have subtraction. Same thing. How to make a 5 or how to take away the 5. This here is simple. So is there enough beads to add the 5? That's what this is. And these are how to make a 10 or how to take away a 10. So it would be like regrouping or borrowing or there's a lot of terms with adding a 10 and taking away 10. Regrouping, grouping, carrying over, and borrowing. I don't know what others are. So that's what it is. And then again, we do it how to make a 5, but we do it with our teens. And it's just easier. I mean, because you can't have a bigger number. You can't take away from a smaller number, right? Or you can't take away from a bigger number. You can't use a small number to take away a big number because then you get a negative, which Abacus doesn't do negatives. So, but yeah. Does anybody have any questions? We can continue on with adding and subtracting. So, let's see. So that's where after doing the simple adding and subtracting, right? And then we do +5, we do -5, right? -5 and then -6. And this is all very simple stuff. Simple meaning not that it's complicated, but the question is, do we have enough beads? So here is 7. We have 7. I'm going to go here. We have 7. I want to add the 1, and I need to take away the 5. So I take away the 5. And so my answer is 3. Then when they finish with the simple, then you can move into the 5. And when you move into the 5, then it's easy to, and then it's not, is it easy? It's another concept. This is what, and I broke up my the workbooks, I broke it up into different phases of learning how to add and subtract, because it's not just a here add everything. It's a here let's add in this framework. So that's why I did this table, because there's a framework to everything when we add, and we always, what we want to do is focus in on the second add-in, just like we do just like when we do subtraction, we always focus in on the second subtract head. Yeah, right. So then in this one, we're only adding the 5. So when we add the 5, I show and I explain like a question structure. The first add-in, second add-in, third add-in. But then minute end, second subtract head, and then third subtract head, and then you know the difference. Okay. We don't, because we don't have it just minus all the time. We have a mixture of minus and adding. That's why I'm kind of like, I don't know about this terminology. Anyways, so we have it, and then what I did is I introduced what the number line is. The only reason why I introduced it was because I wanted to relate to mainstream math. And so when I'm trying to relate it to mainstream math, we also talk about the 5 frame, right? But this time I talk about it and I use it in cats. So this one here is like, if I have 4 cats, color in for 4 cats, how many cats is not colored? It'd be the 1 cat. And then I try to relate it to the beads, right? So if I had a manipulative, and then the idea was to have the kids understand that this is 4 and then this is 1 makes 5, right? Or 2 plus 3 makes 5. So these are like pairs that we need to really remember and memorize in Abacus. So again, we have 4 and 1. That's a pair, right? That's the pair when we make a 5. So that was the reason why we did this. And then I have a cats in a tree. But so the reason why I said cats in a tree was because I wanted to say that the top bead had the 5 cats. So I had it where I wanted the kids to understand the story behind, like a little story, right? Oh, and then again, here is the number bond, and the number bond is to show that there's a relationship, that the 4 and the 5 is related. 4, 5, and the 1 is related. So going back to the cats in the tree. Now here, again, I broke it up into the specific add-ins, not focusing on the answer, but focus on how are we going to add. So cats in the tree are a very unrealistic idea. Cats in a tree, well, our cats go in trees. But the idea was to understand that there's 5 cats in a tree. Can there be 5 cats in a tree? There can be. There could be birds in a tree. But then it could be a themed, right? It could be birds in a tree. We could do elephants in a tree. We could do, I don't know, we could do monkeys in a tree. We could do that too. But in this scenario, I said cats in a tree because I was trying to relate it to The Incredibles. And I was trying, yeah, because one of my students was like, why are there cats in the tree? And I'm like, don't you see, remember The Incredibles, where Mr. Incredible was trying to save a cat that was in a tree, and then he used that same tree to block the bank robbers? Anyways, so we had the cats in the tree, and the idea was that if I have the 2, I'm going to use this one. If I have 2, I want to add 4. Notice I don't have enough beads for 4. So I'm going to go to the cats in the tree, which is the 5, right? Because we have the value of 5. But if we grab 4 cats, 1 cat runs away. So then it becomes, my answer is 6, if that makes sense. So the idea was to try to get the kids to understand that they go to the cats in the tree. Whoa, that's not what I wanted. So, that's what okay, there we go. Okay. So, and again, we talk about this question here. We have 3 plus 4. Well, notice I don't have enough beads to add the 4. So what do? Well, I have to go to the cats in the tree, which is up here. So I go to the cats in the tree, and then I grab 4 cats, and then what happens? 4 cats I grab, but 1 cat runs away. So the 1 cat runs away, and my answer is 7. Okay, so that's what it was in Abacus, is we actually focus in on the operation of doing this. We don't focus on the result. So that was the difference, right? That was the difference that I noticed, that there's some differences, but there's a lot of similarities. And in Abacus, it's the introduction to more complex math. So we talk about isolating the variable. We talk about we talk about substitution, but we don't label these things in Abacus. We just do it because it's just part of the process. It's just part of framework. We have a bunch of things that we start doing is, thank you so much. I love this. Oh, yeah. Kia. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I was trying to make it entertaining for kids. So, but then again, if Cats in a Tree is very unrealistic, so is a talking monkey. What do you think of them apples? Right? It's very confusing. It's very confusing. Well, it's confusing if you don't understand. But so what it is the first thing we need to do is we need to understand how to read the abacus. So if we read the abacus, we have 1, 2, 3, and then 4. When we add 4, right, we counted 4. Well, how do you do 5? Well, with 5, we have the 5 on top. This bead will always have the value of 5, no matter what. So if we do 5 here, this is 5, this is 5, this is 5, and this is 5. But how we do it is also place value. So this is 5, but it's actually 50. Why? Because this is the ones, this is the tens. And then we have 500. This is the 5, this is a 5, but then we have this place value. We have 0, 0. So we have 5, 0, 0. So when I continue to count here on the ones place, I call it the ones place because this is my dot. I have 5 and then I have 6. How do I know? Because remember that the bottom bead always has a value of 1. So when we do 1, we have 7. How do I know? We have 2 beads, so we have 5 plus 2 is equal to 7. And then 3. 3 plus 5 is equal to 8. So in the beginning, even from the very beginning, children will start to be able to see how a number gets decomposed. And then they could use, there's many ways to decompose a number, right? But in Abacus, we introduced the idea of decomposing. Because one of my students, she was 4 at the time, and she noticed that if I take the 5 away, it's 3. If I add the 5, it's 8. So, what place values are the last 2 columns? Oh, the last 2 columns is the decimal. So just as we write, the number. You know what? Let me do a different page. Just as we write, when we do money, that's what I was trying to say. When we do money, right? So I'm going to do this one. This is 835. So we do 8.35, right? $8.35. That's what these last 2 columns are. The reason why is because this is my ones, and then after that, it will be my decimal place. But however, if this is my ones, then I have all of this will be my decimal place. So it all depends on where your placement value is, right? So you could say that this is my ones, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have like a huge amount of decimals. So if we did it here, right, we would be 3.0000.835, right? So it all depends on, and it's very relative, just like everything else. It's relative on it's just like everything else. It's just relative. Like where do you put your flag? Where do you say where the home is? So when we call home, it'd be here. For this scenario, I would call this home. But depending on where my abacus is and how the camera is, I would call this home. Make sense? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can use any of these dots. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter which dot you use to have your home. It doesn't matter, because just like how we move, right? Okay. Yeah, like we can move to different places, right? Like I don't live in the same place as my childhood, but that's the same thing with this. It's there for you to choose, but you don't have to choose it if you don't want to use it. Oh. Anyways, so like for this one's a bigger abacus. This is 13 columns. This one I would be in the middle. The reason why I'd be in the middle, because then I have a lot of numbers in the front, so I can have a bigger number, or I have a lot of numbers in the end, I have a lot of numbers in the back, so I can have decimals. So it just depends on how big your number gets. This one, the 13 column is actually is very common now. There's a bigger one, but the bigger one is I think is too big. Because usually the competition abacus will probably use the 23 column one, and this is a competition abacus, and it's actually really quite old. This one was made. They're all made. I think these two are made in Japan, and this one's made in China. Anyways, but the Chinese abacus is different than the Japanese abacus, because Japanese, what they always do is there's competitions. There are abacus competitions. Can you explain the cat concept? Yeah. So the cat concept was just something I made up. Now, what does that mean? Well, I wanted the kids to understand that if they have to go to the 5. So some of the kids, because they're young, they didn't understand that I go to the 5 and I added. So that was the reason why we did 5 cats in a tree. So when we do 5 cats in a tree, like this question here, I have the 2, and then my next number is the 4. Well, this is where I have to go to the tree. So because I want to add the 4, I want to go to the tree and I add the 5. I grab 4 cats, but then 1 cat runs away. Because if you, and that's what it was. And it was to show that there was a pair. I could get the kids to be like, okay, you just need to memorize that plus the 4 is equal to plus the 5 minus 1. But it's harder to, hi, Marky Mark. It's hard to get the kids to understand this. I mean, we all love stories, right? So I made it into a little story, like, if you need to go to the cats in the tree. So we have cats in the tree, and then my other book is the plus 10s. And this, we didn't talk about the cats, but we talked about the asteroid belt. So this one is, we have 10 asteroids. If we have to go to the asteroid belt, we have to go to the 10. We have to go to the 10 column. So we have to go over here, and if we have to go to the asteroid belt, which is this one, then we do our operation. But we can talk about that later. But that's the idea with the cats in the tree. So for starters, I would do 13 because it grows a lot further, right? So you could do multiplication on this, but multiplication, your answers can only be so big, right? So your answers in like bigger multiplication, like you could do 4 digits times 4 digits. 4 digits times 4 digits on the 13 abacus. Whereas on the 7 column, you can't do 4 digits times 4 digits because that's like 8 digits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You can only do digits that are 5. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But if I move it to here, then I have all of this, right? So if I did 4 digits times 4 digits, I'll be able to fit it all into this abacus. So that was the reason why I would, if you don't have young children, and you want to start the abacus, I would start on the 13. There is a colorful one that's 13 columns. It's exactly the same, it's just colorful. And I like it when they do the top bead as blue instead of the whole column as blue. Because there's one with like a whole solid column, which is fine, but I guess it could help with place value. It's up to you. But they all work the same. Because the idea is understanding that you have the top bead and you have the bottom bead. That's it. That's it. So going back to here, this one specifically is about plus the 4. Then the next step is to understand how do you do a plus 3. Again, plus 3, what is the pair for 3? The pair for 3 is 2, right? How do you make a 5? 2 plus 3 is equal to 5, or 3 plus 2 is equal to 5. So we do a lot of mixing up and manipulation, moving things around. And as we move things around, yes, I like that it encourages understanding and not memorization. Yes, exactly. And so, and you will also see that there's a number pattern. If you notice when I add the 3 and I want to add the 4, it is these 2 beads that I'm adding, right? Because I want to add the 4, it's these 2 beads that I'm adding. And I think, and it's funny, like in school, we always teach the kids about number patterns. But then, these books are available on Amazon at the moment. And then if you wanted an ebook, if you wanted a PDF, I sell it on my website. Oh, I got to do that. I haven't done that yet. I have to sell the rest of my stuff on the website because some people, honestly, this was like a shot in the dark. Like I didn't think anybody would be interested in my books. So I was kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing. But but I really enjoy creating, as I gotten older, like how to create the interactions for the workbooks and for the worksheets for the kids. So right now, my worksheets are focused for children from 3 to 7, 3 to 8. But I do plan on making workbooks for adults and young adults and doing like introduction to Abacus. And I'd probably have more explanation like this. Excuse me. So, but again, it was one of those things like in school, we teach the children about number patterns, but we don't teach them number patterns. We don't teach them number. So, Abacus strengthens the number patterns, which I thought was really interesting. And it was kind of epiphanies. I started making epiphanies on like, how Abacus relates to mainstream math. So there's a lot of like, where's my paper? There was a lot of like, we use substitution, we use isolating a variable, but we actually don't use those specific words in Abacus. We just know it. You know what I mean? We never say, whoa, you got to isolate the variable and you got to do substitution and this is a two-step equation. We don't say that. We just say, okay, well, can you do it? If not, how do you do it? I'm going to teach my daughter. Yes. You know what? Yes, that was the reason why I built this book, was to try to get the kids to understand just what the numbers are. And it works well with other manipulatives, I think, but this one was strictly focused on Abacus because there was not anything there was not anything to focus like what the numbers are, the quantity, the numbers, and then the actual Abacus itself. And then this one was like the pixel art, and then simple shape, but at least they can connect the two. Like this is the one, so I color in the one. I didn't finish it, but I have 4, so this is 4, and it was like kind of like choose your own colors. I wanted them to kind of pick, so they have a sense of ownership. So, but yeah, I mean, I liked it. My kids are old. They didn't get a chance to do this because, being a young parent, you don't have a lot of time to create. But yeah, I understand toddlers, but that was the reason why I did that's the reason why I did the books too, because I wanted to start Abacus for the younger children, because usually Abacus starts when the kids already know what the numbers are. So I took it one step further and I added that part. Yeah. So, was there any questions? Let me know if you have any questions. But yeah, there's a lot of excuse me. There's a lot of math terminology that the Abacus world doesn't really utilize. The only thing that we memorize, if I can show you, the only thing that we really memorize in Abacus when it comes to adding and subtracting are these formulas. That's the only thing that you need to memorize. These are the only things you need to memorize. It's like baking a cake. You need eggs and you need milk, unless you're lactose intolerant and you want to not use eggs. I mean, you could use egg substitute. But like in general things, right? Like the idea was, if you have your eggs and you have your milk and then you have your flour, you could do anything. It could be pancakes, it could be syrup, it could be soup, it could be a lot of things, right? So it's the same thing with Abacus. You understand how to make a 5. You can do how to make a 5 plus and minus, and then you have to learn how to make a 10 plus and minus. Once you get that foundation, then everything is just gravy. The next thing is to start learning how to do multiplication, division, and those have their own separate rules. But for the most part, you're still going to use a lot of this. It just gets compounded, and it goes from working memory to long-term memory. So my kids, I mean, they they hated it, but I pushed them to learn Abacus, and now, I mean, they're old. One's 17, one's 13, and the other one's 11. And I tell them, how do I do something on the Abacus? If I give them an Abacus, they'll be able to do it, because 1, they have muscle memory, and 2, it's ingrained. And that was the one thing that's what I liked about the Abacus is I'm never going to be as fast as my children. I'm never going to be as fast as my children, because they learned it when they were young and they were building their synapses and so forth, right? So they will always be faster than me, which is great. But like, I didn't learn Abacus when I was young. I actually learned Abacus when I was older. And one of the things was like, who we were taught from, my dad went to went to on a business trip, and he was approached by a mom saying, well, you need to take Abacus to America and teach the whole world, or teach Americans. And so he was like, oh, I'm gonna bring this back home, and I'm gonna have my grandkids learn. And like and he forced me and my brother, because that's how Asian parents are, right? He forced me and my brother to learn how to do this, and we have a school that we have. It's an Abacus school. The only thing we do is we teach children how to do math with an abacus. But now I'm going down this route of trying to connect mainstream math with abacus. And that was the reason why I'm trying to modernize abacus. So as I try to modernize abacus, I'm trying to use the terminologies that's being used in mainstream math. And it's interesting, like my dad doesn't know abacus, but I think it's the greatest thing next to sliced bread, and I truly believe that. I wish I had this when I was a kid, because I didn't have to memorize my doubles plus one and my doubles minus one. I didn't have to do all this manipulation. We're teaching children right now that if we do, if we do big numbers, how do you make a 10, and how do you make it be a better number? Those are great. That's a great quality to have. So like one of the questions was, let me see if I can bring up a question. So let me bring up a question. So we have we can do 53, 59 plus 78, right? So one of the strategies in new math, and I'm not knocking it. This is just a strategy, right? What they do here is they say, okay, let's break this up to, like, it goes down. We can round down to 50 and then 3. So that's great, and then they do this one where they break it up. They have 50 plus 9, right? And then this one is 70 plus 8. Okay, so that's one strategy. The other strategy was I'm going to do 50 and round down, so I have to take this 3 somewhere. And then this one I'm going to round up, so I'm going to do 60, but then I have to take away 1 somewhere. And then this one is rounding up as well, so then I do 80, and then and I have to take away 2 somewhere. So I mean, it's great. It gets a little confusing, because then I'm like, okay, well, and then you add it all together. You still got to add it all together. But let's do it in abacus. Let's do it in abacus, because, it makes sense. So here I'm going to use this number. I'm going to use this one right here. So I have 53. I add 5 and I add 3. Right? So then I'm going to do 59. I have 59. I'm going to use my abacus as a marker just so we know where we are. So we have 50 and then 9. I want to add the 5. So remember when we are learning how to when we're learning how to add the 5, we don't have any more beads to add the 5. We don't have enough beads to add the 50. So what do? Is we know that making a 10 is 5 plus 5 is equal to 10. When we rearrange it, it's plus the 10 minus the 5. So what are we going to do? This tells me that I'm going to go to the next column. That means carrying over. So we carry over and we add the 10. But 10 is too much, so we have to take away the 5. Right? So now we're at the 9. I want to add the 9. There's not enough beads to add the 9. What do I do? Well, plus 9 makes plus 1 is a 10. When we isolate the variable, we're going to move the 1 over here. I rewrite it. Plus the 9 is equal to plus the 10 minus 1. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to carry over, right? I'm going to go to here, plus the 10. I add the 10, and I take away the 1, right? And so then my last one is plus 7 and 8. Plus 7, do I have enough? Yes. I'm going to add the 7. And then I'm going to plus the 8. Do I have enough? No, I don't have enough. What do I do? Well, now I got to do how do you make an 8? How do you make a 10 with an 8? So 8 plus 2 is equal to 10. When I isolate the variable, I move this over here. So I rewrite it. 8 is equal to plus the 10 minus 2. So I plus the 10 and I take away the 2. So that's my answer. 190. So, and that was the other thing is, in abacus, we talk about the whole number when we add. We don't do one column in the next column. We don't do this. We don't do the ones and then we don't do the tens. We don't do that. We do the whole number as a whole. So, anybody have any questions? Wow, I've already been on for an hour. Whew, okay. Hey Poyo. Anybody have any questions? So, yeah, I mean, we can continue on, but that's like the fundamentals of Abacus. That's the fundamentals of Abacus, and I do believe it's the greatest thing next to sliced bread. Read the 109 to me with the beads. Oh, yeah. So, remember, we have our ones. I don't know if you could see it. Right? We have our ones. This is our ones. That's too bright. Right? Because why? Well, we have it with the decimal, not the decimal, the dot. So if you see the dot that's on the horizontal bar, the horizontal bar tells me that this is the ones. So this is what 0 is, right? Because none of the beads are touching the zero, none of the beads are touching the horizontal bar. So when I go to the tens, this is 9 because all of these beads, as they touch each other, are touching this horizontal bar. So then this is our 9 in our tens column. So then we have our hundreds column because we go from right to left. So here is my hundreds column and I only have one bead touching the horizontal bar. So that's why this is 190. Make sense? Thanks for asking. AMA Sunshine, welcome back. I was a little tired last night, so I didn't come on this morning. But I do feel like I was like, oh, it's time to get on. Because I was also doing some recording for my classes and stuff. So I had it where I was recording like bigger numbers and stuff. But I wanted to make sure that it made sense before I continue on. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions. So this is where we could talk about the place values, and then pay attention to the dots. Those are the dots that tells me where the ones place. You could be here, but then it would be 0 point, right? Because the decimal happens between the two columns. So it'd be 0.19. It could be that too. It's like ama, like mama. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Ama. That's funny. That's not funny. That's interesting because my school, that like my physical school, that's like I'm in California. We actually say AMA Learning Center, so that's why I say AMA. But yeah, AMA. Okay, I'll remember that. Ours is I think my dad named it Abacus Math Arithmetic, but it was like acronyms. So it greets grandma. In what language? AMA. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So I'm assuming you have grandchildren. How old are your grandchildren? Oh, I'm assuming you have grandchildren. How old are your grandchildren? So, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, like, it's really quite interesting when you go down the journey. I mean, and everybody can learn at any time. I learned when I was older, but again, it does take time to understand, because we have to not unlearn it's not we have to unlearn what we learned when we were kids, if that makes sense. We just now need to know that there's another way of doing things, right? And so learning through the abacus was really quite mind-blowing to me, because it made a lot of adding and subtracting a lot easier than it really was, because there's a lot of strategies involved. Like this one was one strategy. I would love to see another example of what you just did. Oh yeah, not a problem. So I have another example. Let's see. Let me see. I'm only going to do 3 because it's harder. I'm only going to do 3 add-ins. It wouldn't make sense to do more. So let's do another one, let's do 63, 85, and then minus 41. Okay, so again, we need to remember where our place value is. I'm going to do here, because I don't know if I'm going to have 100, but just in case. So I'm going to be here. I need to move it over. Now the other reason why oh, the other thing was making sure that we line up our numbers. Do we need to line it up in Abacus? No, we don't really need to. You know why? Because we do wholes, right? We do whole number. We don't do columns. In regular math, we have to do columns, so everything had to line up. But in Abacus, we actually don't need to, and I just realized because what we do is we take the number as a whole, like this. So we have 60, and then we have 3. I hope. Let me see if I can bring this down a little bit. Maybe this will help. 63. All right. So the next number we have is 85. Oh, I'm going to do it like this. 85. All right. Maybe that will better. So let's see. 85. So now we're going to add 8 and we're going to add the 5. Right? We're going to add the 8 and we're going to add the 5 because that's the 80 and the 5. But we're going to add it to these numbers, right? So what is 8? Is there enough beads to add the 8? Maybe I should make it brighter. Oh my gosh. I'm always playing around with the lighting on this thing because it's always so different. So the question is, and it's a conversation, right? So the question is there enough beads to add the 8? I always start from here. It just, going forward makes easier. I understand it when we go forward. So when we're adding, we go from the hundreds, right? And then subtracting is the same way. But anyways, is there enough beads to add the 8? So I have the 6. Do I have enough beads to add the 8? No, actually, we don't have enough beads because we only have 3 beads to worry about. So what does that mean? Then the next question is, how else can I add the 8? So when I know how to add the 8, I know that when I do is I need to make a 10. So I have 8 plus 2 is equal to 10. So we teach children this in school already, but in Abacus we take it one step further. So in Abacus, what we're going to do, we're going to go 8. If I want to add the 8, I'm going to plus the 10 minus the 2. This is something that the kids will have to remember, right? This is something that they have to memorize. So what does this mean? I want to go to add the 10. So I add the 10 means I want to add the 8 here. If I add the 8 here, I have to go to the 10 first. So I go to the 10 and then I take away the 2. Now, the difference is this is now a two-step problem, a two-step equation, excuse me, because I cannot take away the 2. There's not enough beads to take away a 2. Another way to take away the 2 is minus the 2 is equal to minus the 5 plus the 3. This right here is making a 5. So what does that mean? That means that I can now take away the 5 and I add the 3. So now I am at 14, right? I have 140. So now I'm still here and I need to add the 5. So I add the 5. Do I have enough beads to add the 5? Yes. All I gotta do is add the 5. So now my next question is minus 41. So I take away 40 and I take away 1. And that's it. So then my answer is, what's my answer? If this is my ones, what does my answer look like on the abacus? Hi, Nico-chan. Whew. 102. No, 107, because we have to remember the 5 that's up here. The 5 is touching the top bead is touching the beam. Yes, 107. So it's 107 because it's the ones and then this is the hundreds. The ones, tens, and the hundreds. So my answer is 107. But again, notice I didn't have to line it up because we actually used the number as a whole. And so I think that's the difference as well. I mean, you could do it. You could do it by column. It just get more. It would just be confusing. We try to do the mainstream way of doing multiplication, and it was a little confusing. So, but yeah, I mean, we can continue on. We can do another question. Let's see. Let's do a different color. Let's do this color. So we have 86 minus 15 plus 54. So I'm going to use my abacus, and I'm going to bring it up. Maybe I should bring this down a little bit. There we go. All right. So I'm going to use the abacus as my marker, and we're going to do 86. So what we're going to do is 80. So I do 80, and then I do 6. And then I move my abacus down a little bit so I could see. So I take away 15. Easy, right? Take away 1, take away 5. And then this one is plus 54. Do I have enough to add the 50 and then the 4? Do I have enough to add the 50? No. So this is another thing that we have to memorize, right? We have to memorize how to do the plus 10, how to make a 10. So how to make a 10 is 5 plus 5 is equal to 10. So we know that 5 and 5 equals to 10. We can rearrange it to say 5 is equal to plus the 10 minus the 5. When we talk about it in Abacus, we always say plus 5 is equal to plus the 10 minus the 5. Because it reminds us that we're adding the 5 here. Woo, sorry, we're adding the 5 here. So what we're going to do is we're going to plus the 10 and then take away the 5. So we plus the 10 and we take away the 5. So we're done with our 5 here, right? We're done with the 5. Now we're going to add the 4. We're going to add the 4 in the 1's column. Notice I don't have enough beads to add the 1. So what do? Well, how do I make a 5? To make a 5 with a 4. There's a lot of numbers going around, right? So 5 plus 1 is equal to 4. So again, I'm going to isolate the variable. The 4 I'm going to isolate, and I'm going to make it where the 1 is a minus. So I'm going to rewrite the equation to be plus the 4 is equal to plus the 5 minus 1. Why am I making... I have to make sure that these operators are there because it helps us remind us what we're trying to do. So we're going to plus the 5 and take away the 1. So then my answer is... What's my answer? Whew. Yes, exactly. 125. 125. But yeah, and see how it's just easier because in regular mainstream math, we're going to have to we're going to, when we add it, we don't see the numbers, but really, if you just move the beads, 12, always complainer. Yes, thank you. Yes, it's 125. Yeah, so in school, it's interesting because we see these digits, we see the symbols, but we don't see the digits on the app. We don't see the digits, like how we move the beads. In the abacus, if you move the beads and you understand how to move the beads, it's a lot easier to just add and subtract, multiply and divide, as long as you can see and move the stuff. So, did that make sense? Hopefully that was okay. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoy going through this process. I'm just showing how easy it is to do adding and subtraction on the abacus. Because it always starts with the question like, is there enough beads? And we have a conversation when we do adding and subtracting, multiplication, division. It's always a conversation like, do we have enough and what do we do to make it, right? Whereas in mainstream math, you're just do the question. There's no real discussion. But it's interesting on like the philosophy of doing like how everybody does math differently, which is fine. But I do believe that going through the abacus idea, going through the abacus method, it makes a lot of sense and and you could see it. It's very visual. Whereas like you could use these blocks, right? And then you could do regrouping. So one of the questions I think what I did was let's do another one. So let's do, let me see. Let's do 18. So 18 plus 57. So let's do easy. I wish abacus was taught in school. You know, it was interesting. There was this one school down my street. They actually taught abacus in like 1970, and then they stopped. But I it's interesting. Like that's the one thing is try to make it to a point where people will understand it, and then if they understand it, it can be implemented. Obviously, we would have to rearrange some of the curriculum because we can't just teach kids just 1 plus 1 is equal to 1, right? There's a structure to it. We would have to remove the 4. So that's what I did in my books. So my books are very abacus specific, and so the questions are very specific to abacus. You should not be seeing a plus 10 formula in the when you're doing a plus 5 formula, if that makes sense. So it's very specific. So here's the question they're doing in math, right? We have 18, we have 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is 18, right? And then we have 57. That's a big number. 57. 2, 4, 6, 7, right? And what they're doing oh, I didn't, like, let me, oh, maybe it's too, yeah, let me, like, there we go. I forgot. So in school, they're teaching children, to use manipulatives, which is great. I think it's fantastic because then they could see what they're doing. So if we're adding these two, right, what we're going to do is we're going to add everything. I don't know. I don't teach this way. I don't know how they're teaching it. I'm just assuming that this is what they're going to do because that's what I do. I'm going to take everything and then I got to break up. Okay, how do I make a 10 out of this? Because there's a lot of going on here. I got to be more organized. So I would probably do this, right? Try to figure out how to make a 10. I think there's more strategic to it than what I'm doing. There's more strategy. So I'm going to regroup it, right? That's a 10. So I'm going to take this out and I'm going to do this. And my answer is 45. Oh, no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? 75. So I think what they do is, yeah, I'm not even gonna go down that road because I don't teach this way. But that was the idea, is like they could see the quantity, which is great. But in Abacus, how we do it, right? We have 18, so we have 1 and we have 8. 1 and 8. And then we have 57. Well, is there enough to add the 5? Yes. All I got to do is just add the 5. There we go. We add the 5. Now, I'm done with the 5. I mean, this is a lot of illustration, right? This is not how I would do it if I was by myself, but this is for illustration purposes. Plus the 7. I want to add the 7 to the 1s. Is there enough to add the 1? Is there enough to add the 7? No, there's not. So what's another way? Well, we know that if we want to make a 10, we have to do 7 plus 3 is equal to 10. So the abacus world, we need to remember that plus 7 is equal to plus the 10 minus 3. They organize the base 10 blocks in each specific way. My kids are so confused. They were like, no. Oh, yeah, I don't, that's a lot, it's a lot for me because it's a lot to see, if that makes sense. So I don't, yeah, thank you. Yeah, the base 10 blocks is I don't teach it and I don't understand the strategies. Yeah. So we're here. So we have the plus the 10 minus the 3. So notice this thing that's right here. The reason why I reiterate this is because in mainstream math, they call it many things. They call it grouping, right? Or regrouping. They call it carrying over, right? When we add, we carry over. When we subtract, it's borrowing. What else do we do? We call it grouping, right? But in Abacus, we only call it plus 10. That's it. Anytime you need to add the 10, you just go to the next column over. That's all that means in Abacus. You need to add the 10, just go to the next column over. That's all you need to do. So what we want to do is want to add the 10 and then take away the 3 because we're adding the 7. We're right there. We want to add the 10 and then take away the 3. So then my answer is 75. So, yeah. There's a lot of different ways. So 75. Yeah, but in Abacus, it's funny. Like, that's all it is. Like, even if we take this like one step further, right? Let's say we do 3, 4, 7, 9, right? Let's do that. Let's add some numbers so we could see, and you'll see how it just carries over. So we do 1,834, right? plus 57. Let me rewrite the question. So it's 8,000, no, sorry, 1,834 plus 5,779, right? We're just adding it. We're only going to add because it's just easier to understand. So same thing. I didn't have 1, right? It's a 1, 8, 3, and then 4. So now when I go next step over, I'm going to do the whole number. I'm not going to do the ones. I'm going to do the number as a whole, right? So I do 5. So my plus the 5, again, remember, plus 5 is equal to plus the 10 minus 5. So I plus the 10. I plus the 10 just means I go to the next column over. So it doesn't matter where it doesn't matter. It doesn't say that I mean the tens in the tens place. What the 10 means is the next column over. That's all that means. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the 10. Oh no, I'm going to plus the 5. Sorry, I'm going to add the 5. So then I plus the 7. Again, remember, 7 is equal to plus the 10 minus 3. I need to, come on. So, and I've been online for an hour and a half. Wow. Okay, so I'm here. I'm adding my question is plus I'm adding the 7 plus the 10 minus the 3. Again, all I need to do is my fingers here. I plus the 10, which is the next column over. I plus the 10 and I take away the 3. So now I want to add this 7. I'm over here. So I'm here. Do I have enough? No. What do? I have to plus the 10, take away the 3. Plus the 10, which is go to the next column over, plus the 10, and then take away the 3. Now my next question, my next number is 9. What do? This is where I put my 9. How do I do it? 9 plus the 9 is equal to plus the 10 minus 1. So I go to the next column, plus the 10, right? I add the 10, and then I take away the 1. So then my answer is, what is my answer? I'm really lazy right now. But I'm going to sign off. I can't believe it's already 1 for me. I haven't had lunch yet. So, so before I leave, what number is this one that's on the abacus right now? Thank you so much for the rose. 100, 2,000. No, you have to remember the top bead, right? The top bead is touching the horizontal bar. So when we do it, hi Chloe. I can now say people's names because people are slowly coming in and then leaving. Okay, so Amma, we have to remember that the top bead is touching the horizontal bar. So 7,613. That is correct. And there is not 313. It's the 6 because this is the 5. So when we count, it's 5, 6, 7. So this is 7. This one is 6. How do I know? 5, 6 because it's the top bead. And then this is 1, and then this is 3. Oh yeah, okay, cool. So, but Alma, does that make sense? When we read the abacus, we have to remember there's a top bead when it touches the horizontal bar. Yeah. So, privacy is power joined. Oh, yes. Yes. So if there's any other questions, I'm going to sign off. Thank you again for all the comments, and it was interesting to know about the 10 blocks and stuff. And it's nice to be able to talk to adults about what kids are going through school, because my kids went through school and I didn't have to help them. But I did have to tell them that they had to show their work, and no matter what they did, they have to always show their work. Whatever the teacher was asking for, they had to do what the teachers was asking, because the teachers don't know abacus, which is perfectly fine. But I wanted them to use the abacus to just strengthen their number sense and to build their confidence. And using abacus, and that's what it did. So, you said you had a learning book? Yeah, it depends on how old the children are, but I started the book with preschool. So my idea was I'm a mom and I need help with my kids, and I followed you. Oh, hi, thank you. So this book was to start the children young and to get them to understand how to read the numbers, like adding, like what is a 7 and what does a 7 looks like on the abacus. So in this in this specific scenario, what I would do is I would first figure out how to read the abacus. So we can start by counting 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have this horizontal bar tells me that we're counting these beads. So when we count the beads and we know that we don't have any more beads at the bottom, we always use the top bead, which is the number 5. 65. So we have the 5. So when we add the 5, we know that this will be 6 because it's the 5 plus 1 is equal to 6, right? And then 7, 5, 6, 7, and then 8, and then 9. This is available on Amazon, and you can find it through my name. My name is Lynette Young. There it is. Whew. All right. So the first thing would be to get the kids to understand how to read the abacus. And depending on how old your children are, hopefully they're open to learning a new way of doing things. I mean, the kids are learning how to use the 10 block. Hopefully they're open to learning how to use the abacus. But you do have to go through the steps of understanding how to read it. And it might seem really easy to them, but it's still kind of beneficial to start them from the very beginning of understanding, okay, if I look at this, I know that this is 8, right? 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I know that if I do this, this will be 2. And then when I do this, this will be 5. So my answer here would be 500, because we do place values too. We have the ones, the tens, and the hundreds. So we have 528. Yeah. And so then afterwards, after they start doing, depending on how old the kids are, you can breeze through this part or not do it at all. But I would focus in on here where we actually do adding and subtracting. And this is the simple adding and subtracting means that you don't need any formulas to add to. So here's the question, which is 1 plus 2. So they have to know that I want to add these 2 beads. Whether they add these 2 beads or these 2 beads, it doesn't matter as long as it's 2 beads. So the idea was to show the process, not the result. Because I notice in regular school, they focus in, we got to know how to add to 8. I'm like, well, no, because it's kind of loaded depending on what the numbers are. And there's a pattern behind it. So here is what I built was this table, addition table, and we focus in on the second add-in. Notice on the second add-in we have our how to make a 5, and then this is the yellow is how to make a 10. So here is like 9. So 9 plus what? 9 plus 1 will equal to 10. So it's easy to show on the abacus. But that's what the books would start. And then after doing the learning the how to simply add on the abacus, then the next book would be the +5. And then after the +5 would be the -5, which will be available soon. I just got to sit down and finish the book. And then because if you know the adding, then you know the subtraction. I have my worksheets. I just didn't think about putting it into a book until I realized that I forgot to put it into a book. So after the +10s, there you'll see that there's a +5 +10s. After the +5s, you'll see that there's a +10s, but there's actually should be a book in between. So this one is the +10s, and this +10s is about how to make a 10, and it's the same thing about and just have activities to go with it. There's more to it. This is where we start. This is where I talk about specifically the adding the number. So we have to add the 7. How do we add the 7? We add the 7 by plus the 7 is equal to plus the 10 minus the 3. And I try to explain it, through the pictures because I like pictures. So here is the question, 9 plus 7. So this is a sample question, right? So we have 9. We have 9, and we want to add the 7. So when we add the 7, oh my God, this is horrible. I got to get a better camera. Yeah. So here we want to add the 7. Notice we don't have enough beads to add the 7 here. So what do? This is where we have to go to plus the 10, right? Plus the 10, and then take away the 3. And so then my answer is 16. So, all right. if nobody else has any questions, privacy is power. I do plan to go live every day. I don't have a set schedule, so it's kind of like whenever I do have availability. I do plan to go on tonight, probably around, I don't know, maybe 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm like right around that time. But yeah, I try to go live at least once a day. At least once a day, just to tell everybody about how great Abacus is. So I'm happy to help. Let me know if you have any questions. But if not, I'm going to sign off. Thank you again for all the hearts. There's wow. There's still 5 of us in the room. Thank you so much, Amma. Yeah, yeah. You know what? It's not that it's difficult. It's just different, and just if you continue to practice, it will become easier because as you see stuff, it will make sense. But I do feel like it's more logical than others. Thank you so much for liking the live. Thank you so much. Yes, see you again. Always complainer. Yes, thank you again, Amma, for showing up, and thank you again for participating. And who is the other one? Oh, I think he left. I don't know. I'm using the desktop, so I don't see everybody. I just see whoever's commenting. Oh, thank you for the rose. Thank you for the rose. And that was the other thing is I don't see the gifts that happened. It's just an interesting setup. Anyways, so if nobody else has any questions, thank you so much for joining me. I will try again, maybe tonight. I'm not sure. It's been I gotta get my books out because people are starting to really. So I really want to put in the -5. I do have it. I just gotta format it and make it and publish it. That's what I gotta do. So I'm gonna sit down and do that and then get it out. But yeah, thank you again for everything, and I will see you guys in the next live. Bye. End live.